What's up? What's up? What's up? HMV Live is on the mic, 11 a.m. on Tuesday and every Tuesday, live from Hard Money Bankers. I am Jason. Sitting next to me is Chris. Both of us are from Hard Money Bankers. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are just tuning in for the first time, we do the HMB Live show every Tuesday at 11 a.m. So make sure you tune in. Put it on your calendars. We have some really cool topics that we go over related to real estate, business, marketing, finance, and more. So tune in every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Cool. So let's dive in. Oh, and if you have any questions, feel free to comment below and comment on any questions. You see that little, there you go. Comment with any questions. Put that on the screen. And if you'd like to be on the show, we'll add a link for that as well. So you can do your thing. And actually, while we're talking, I'm gonna put that comment. Let me type this in. Comment below with any questions.
And any questions at all, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be about today's topic. If you want to jump in with whatever, we're happy to respond to it. Keep it interactive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you want to be on the show live, click here. Click here. All right. Let's dive in. So today we are talking about properly tracking property expenses. So important. First off, Chris, out of every real estate investor you know, how many of them as a percentage do you think are properly tracking their expenses? Their income and expenses for their properties to a T.
To a T, I would say maybe 10%.
That's exactly what I thought too.
That's the figure you had in mind.
Yeah.
I definitely know a few people who do both real time and after. And there's kind of two ways to go about it. Like maybe not the best ways, but one thing that happens is that people get through their jobs, their construction expenses, finance, everything else, all the categories we're going to go through soon. And then they figure it all out after the fact, which is, you get like a, 8 out of 10 if you do that. That's even better than a lot of people are going to be doing. But the people who are tracking everything real time, you get a 10 out of 10 for that. And we're going to talk about different ways to do that. The fact is, as with a lot of these sorts of things with real estate investors, like, not everything is done in the most professional way. Because people are just thrown into deals and kind of figure it out as they go along. And that's why we're, here to help and talk about it a little bit, give people some information so they can tighten up on what they're doing and make their deals more effective, more profitable.
Yeah, right. Everyone says, hey, I'm going to just get into this deal and I'm going to worry about all the details later. Well, the details are extremely important and they have to be worried about up front. You can't go back a year in the past and say, oh, well, this was this, this was this. You got to be able to count your money. If you can't count your money, you can't be in business. So that goes for the income you make on a property. It also goes for the expenses that you spend on a property. So we're going to go over a few quick tips related to properly tracking your property expenses. It's super important and it may not be the sexiest thing. It's not like going to a property and picking out, what paint or whatever you're going to be doing on a property. So it's not all that sexy, but it's super important. And let's remember, we're in this business to make money. That's the number one thing. Cool. Yeah. So properly tracking your expenses.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you define as sexy or what is attractive to a person. I mean, for example, I'd much rather be counting the dollars than picking paint, personally. Right?
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I guess a lot of people would prefer to pick out stuff related to the house and the product itself, but still, yeah, the dollars have to be counted. And that was a good line you said before. I know we've mentioned that in the past. That like, if you can't count the numbers, then you can't be in that business, right?
Yeah, it doesn't work. You can't just go through life and being like, oh, cool. I'm going to, use this money. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to use this money. I'm going to buy that. Oh, cool. I got some money and great. I'm going to put it right back in my pocket. Imagine just all this money. Like I'm in my pocket right now, right? I have no idea how much money is in my pocket, right? So Chris gives me money. I put it in my pocket and then someone needs money and I give it to them. And then it's just all happening, but I don't really know what I'm spending, what I'm not spending. Like it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Eventually you're going to either run out of money or
can't see the pocket. You just
So,
put it in, pull it out, and you don't know what's in there.
yeah, you don't know what's in there. It's so freaking important, and so many people don't realize that. So, we touched a little bit about why tracking everything is so important. You can't be in business if you can't track the money. And I know so many investors firsthand that they're like, yeah, we're going to make like 20 on this deal, $20,000 on this deal. And then, all of a sudden when it all comes down to it, they're like, oh shit, I lost $5,000. And it's like, yeah, I mean, what told you you're going to make $20,000 on this deal? Your emotional head, your emotions are, when you're thinking about flipping real estate and making money, your emotions are always, always positive. You're never being like, yeah, maybe I'm not going to make as much as I thought I was going to make, but I'm still going to make all this money. Like, prove it.
Yeah, there's two problems with that. Like, one, we've seen plenty of people who are doing their numbers, in essence, like their profit and loss on a given real estate deal in their head. And of course, it'll shake out later on, like when they have to file taxes or, do their end of the year accounting. But during the process, they're literally ballparking it in their head. And like Jason said, like people are way too optimistic about investments that they're, emotionally invested in. So yeah, it happens all the time. People say, yeah, I think I'm going to, walk away from this one with about 30. And it's actually like a break-even deal because it's all being done in their head, in their super optimistic human brain.
If I told you right now that you were going to break even on a deal, would you do it? Absolutely not. So stick to the formula and make sure it works right. Okay, cool. So a lot of people ask like, okay, well, what do I track? And we're going to talk how you track things in a second. Let's talk about things that you do need to track. Now, obviously, everyone says, okay, well, I just need to track my construction costs. Well, construction costs are only one element of a real estate transaction. So think about this. I'm just going to walk you through a pretty standard real estate transaction. So you got purchase costs, right? You buy a property for $100,000. It's going to cost you $4, $5, $6,000 just to buy it. Doesn't matter if you're getting financing. It doesn't matter if you're buying it in cash. There's true costs. Or if you're doing a JV with somebody and you're not even taking ownership, but you're doing the deal with them. There's costs, there's transfer tax, there's recordation tax, there's title insurance to make sure your title is, you have clean title. There's property taxes, there's property insurance, there's title fees, there's D-trans. There's so many things. It's a few $1,000s, right? Estimate 4% of your purchase price just to be safe, right? So $4,000 or $5,000. So there's our true costs right there. Then you got financing costs. Let's say if you have a lender, if you have financing costs, it may cost you a few points. You may have some interest carry. Either you're paying that on the front end or you're paying on the back end. You have financing costs associated with the deal. Obviously, we have construction costs. Construction costs are the hardest to continue to stay on track on because there's so many of them throughout the transaction. Purchase costs, you may have 10 purchase costs. Financing, you may have 5 or 10 line items of stuff while you're tracking this on, we're going to talk about softwares and ways to keep organized. Construction costs, there could be 100 items. I bought these light bulbs, I bought this, I paid labor for this, I did it, either you're doing it in lump sums to a GC or a contractor is doing it all, or you're going to the stores and picking out all the items and then you're paying for labor. No matter how you do it, you need to track it to make sure it's accurate. I know a lot of people sometimes like to do that in like a separate bank account, one bank account per property. That's not necessary. If you have proper ways to track things, you can do it a much cleaner way, which we're going to talk about. So you got construction costs, and then you have holding costs, right? There's additional holding costs. What happens when, an electric bill comes, a Washington Gas and Electric or Baltimore Gas and Electric bill comes, or a sewer bill, or property taxes are due again, or an insurance renewal comes up. Those are all costs that you kind of take for granted that you don't realize. And even if you do realize them, you're not putting them on paper, and they have to be put on paper and they have to be put in the software the right way. And then you have resale costs. Resale costs could be realtor fees. It could be seller subsidy. It could be your recordation tax and your title fees on the back end. It could be past water bills that weren't paid, whatever the case is. There's lots of different line items. I would say every time we buy a property, we probably have about if we look at our ledger, dozens and dozens and dozens, maybe 100 transactions, right? You can't go back and do that 6 months later. You don't know what it's for, and it's a pain in the ass. Do it in real time. Set up a good system and make sure you're doing it.
Now, let me ask you, how would you recommend maybe somebody who's newer and they've done a deal or two and they know that they have not been tracking things right? Like, what's a good solution? Would you say, I know there's, you can get very advanced with this with the software and everything else that like some pros use. But for a newer person, what would you say?
So somebody who already is halfway through a flip, or somebody and they want to go back and fix everything, or somebody who's buying a property today?
No, moving
like
forward.
Right now.
Say they've done 2 deals. They know that they did not track them properly, and they're buying another one tomorrow, and they want to do it right.
So we're going to talk in a second about full software to get and cheap. It doesn't have to be expensive software, but software to do that. But let's say like that doesn't exist to make your life easy. Put it in a freaking Google sheet and keep it freaking simple, and use your bank accounts and your Google Sheets and document that stuff in real time as they come in. And it's not hard. I don't care if you have a full-time job. I don't care if you're in your car all the time. I don't care if you're looking for new properties all the time. If this stuff is done in real time, it's literally seconds to minutes a day, and that's it. Just have a tally in a Google Sheet of this is the date, this is what it was, this is the expense category, and expense categories are important. When we just talked about what do I need to track, that you can use those as your expense categories, and do that with your bank account and do that with your Excel spreadsheet, and you can kind of use the two of those to kind of reconcile that to see exactly where you're at.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can totally see that. Just keeping it simple, keep an eye on your actual cash in the bank, and then also using a spreadsheet just to track everything as it's happening, like you said. That sounds like a good way to go. And as you're working through the deal and you're cutting checks for this, for that, you're making interest payments, you're paying for your construction as the project's moving along and tracking it real time. I think that sounds like a good way to go for somebody who's just doing one deal at a time and trying to get their stuff organized.
Yeah, just at the beginning, listen, doing accounting stuff isn't that sexy, and I get it. Like the data entry stuff, the sexy part is understanding where your money is, but you don't need to hire someone to do that. You don't really need to have much of a skill set of it. You just input it, right? Start by inputting and do your thing. It's so important. I mean, we have a lot of borrowers that come to us years down the road, be like, hey, when did you, I'm trying to see how many draws you sent me back on my money and what dates you sent me, a year later. I mean, we've got record of it. I'm happy to send that to you, but you should have record of that. So I sent you money. I sent you $20,000 for a construction draw. What do you mean you don't know, when you got that? Like, that's simple. So it doesn't have, don't be crazy. So, okay. So this isn't like a recommendation. This is kind of a must. Like after you buy a property, and you should do this before you buy a property, but after you buy a property, like day one, you have to get proper tracking and software in place. I don't care if you have 1 deal or 100 deals, you have to put this in place. You want to talk a little bit about some of the softwares that could be used for this business?
Yeah, I will jump into that in 1 second. One thing I wanted to touch on while it was fresh in my mind is if you really want to be professional about this and improve your real estate game over time, even doing this on the side, 1 deal at a time, which we totally support. That is like a really smart way to go about it, in our opinion. If you were to do, like Jason said, the Excel or Google spreadsheet before, like your projections on a deal, every single one, like from the acquisition cost to financing to everything else, and your bottom line over here, and then you move down a few columns and do an actual, this is what happened, you're going to be able to dial in on the things that you didn't judge right, that you didn't estimate properly, maybe things that didn't get executed right, like this came in way higher than I anticipated it was going to cost. That is going to be a very, very smart way to improve your game deal to deal. You're going to know what you thought, how it played out, and what you need to fix in order to increase your profit margin going into the next acquisition. So that would be a really, really smart thing. I would love to see somebody who's doing this currently. Maybe we can talk to some of our clients about that, because I know we've mentioned this, but I haven't seen documentation of somebody putting that into practice, and I would love to see it, because that sounds like really smart real estate investing to me. Yeah.
There's no magic do this in your head. It doesn't exist. You can't do it. You can't remember it all. It just doesn't, it doesn't work. Like, you need the numbers no matter what. If you're just tuning in, every Tuesday at 11 a.m., we do this show. It's called HMB Live. We do it through Facebook Live. Tune in on Facebook. If you enjoy what you hear, we'd encourage you to share it with your friends. We have a really good audience that likes a lot of stuff that we do. You can watch it live if you're not available on any Tuesday at 11 a.m. When we do it live, the recording stays up here, so you can go back and watch it there. Any questions that you have for us, we are happy to answer. Comment below with any questions, real estate, business, finance, marketing, things that we talk about every day. If we're not talking about them on the air, we will just be talking them together. So I'd rather share some of the stuff we know. I'd like to collaborate with you. If you are currently doing real estate deals or just trying to get into real estate, or you're an entrepreneur, you're starting a business, or you need some marketing help, finance help, feel free to chime in, share, comment, all those good things. Today, we are talking a little bit about properly tracking property expenses when you do a flip, when you do a rental, when you buy a commercial property, when you do a wholesale deal. Maybe even, who knows, if any other type of business you're in. We're tailoring this to owning property, but it can be tailored to anything. So we talked a little bit about why tracking is so important. Then we talked a little bit about what things you want to track for a property. And let's jump in a little bit of what softwares, and there's multiple options, what softwares you can use. And we'll talk a little bit about the softwares that we use, some pros and cons. So you want to dive in a little bit of some software options? For sure. Let's talk about a few options. Now, the one thing that is the deciding factor when you're talking about what kind of system to use, besides, I would talk about cost. I would also consider the volume of transactions you're doing. And from those two things, back into where you should be. If you are doing 2 or 3 deals a year, I think you can get by with, using your bank account, cutting checks, even manually, and tracking your stuff in an Excel spreadsheet. I believe you can. And then later on, that's going to have to go into your CPA's software in order to produce a tax return. That's for sure. But it could be done on that level with those solutions. If you want to take one step up, then you get into a system that's going to both cut checks for you and track the numbers. Then you're one step up in like a QuickBooks sort of option. QuickBooks, I don't love for owning real estate, but it can do it. It is capable of properly tracking everything that's going on. The problem is it's not really made for that. So the things that you need to see as an owner of real estate, either flips or rentals, they aren't readily available. You have to run reports to get to where you are. You don't have a good dashboard. But still, if you're talking a couple deals a year and you know how to use QuickBooks, or someone can teach you, I think that's an okay option. Going up the ladder, if you're doing more deals, 5, 8, 12, maybe you have a big rental portfolio, you're going to need some proper solutions. And I can talk about a couple that we've used. When it comes to doing flips and managing construction, we have used Sage, Sage 100 Contractor is one of them. There's a more. Is it Sage 100 Contractor or Sage Contractor 100? One or the other. And that's like the base level, because we don't do a ton of flips. And then there's more expensive options, and those are really good for job cost tracking, running reports. Like, it's doing your full on accounting. Like, it's your cutting your checks. It's doing what your CPA needs all in one. For rentals, and I bet you could do flips in here too, but we use Yardi. And again, there's different levels. There's a really expensive Yardi, like Yardi Voyager, or we use Yardi Genesis, and it's a less expensive option for our rental portfolio, which isn't huge, like 18, 19 properties. But it does what we need. It's tracking the income and expense per property, cash balance. If we sell something, we can see a final balance sheet report to see the profit on that. So yeah, depending on where you are, we can easily give recommendations on what might be the best solution for you. But those are, in general, the options. And there's a few things to think about. Like, the time it takes to put something into an Excel spreadsheet is really the same time that it takes to put into one of these softwares. So that's important. And your Excel spreadsheet is not going to print out P&Ls and just basic reporting. It's just not, right? Like, that is just, for the most part, a log of stuff. Log your data. That's it. So by putting some of this stuff in, and also it's not all that hard to learn some of these softwares. I'm not saying that you're just going to pick it up and type it in like an Excel spreadsheet. There's a little bit learning of it, but it goes so much further by doing that. And another thing that we've really found that I think is important is we have proper data and it's properly recorded and organized. So when we send it to our CPA, it doesn't cost us that much extra money for him to do everything for us. You know, if you're sending him an Excel spreadsheet with stuff, he's got to reorganize it. He's got to put it in the format that he wants, and it may cost you additional money just to do that. So our accounting costs have gone down, tax prep costs and other accounting costs have gone down because we already have it done and it's organized. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you should be an accountant or bookkeeper or any of these other stuff. So you either spend a little bit of time, do it yourself, get a spouse to do it or a significant other, maybe get an outsourced person to do it. It's not hard to do. I would understand it first, you know, learn it a little bit. It's not that hard, and then try to get someone else to do it. And it just goes a long way. You know, obviously I love saving money and saving costs on our accounting bill is great. But more importantly, I want to be able to print something out on a computer and know where we are in real time at any time 24/7. That is the most important thing to me about being a business owner is I want to know where we are at any given time. And it only works if it's properly tracked.
Yeah, for sure. And we just did a monthly meeting. It was quick and easy because all the stuff is prepared with one of our accountants here at HMB and also our company that owns properties. So we just took a quick look at reports that we already know what they're going to be, profit and losses, income and expense statement, cash balance per property. We know what we're looking at. It doesn't take long. It was already prepared, and we know exactly where we stand on all of our operation.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, hope everybody enjoyed this segment of HMB Live. We do HMB Live every Tuesday at 11 a.m. I think this upcoming Tuesday is July 4th. We'll determine if we want to jump in on one. I think I'm free, so maybe I'll do one, but we'll figure that out. You know, if you have any questions, comments related to this topic or any other topic that we've talked about, feel free to comment below. Just even if you just want to comment about, hey, I'm a newer investor. I need some help with managing contractors. Cool. Happy to talk about that. Or I need some help with marketing. You got any recommendations of where to start on direct mail pieces? Sure. Happy to help with that as well. That's what we're doing. Tuesday, 11 a.m. Every Tuesday, 11 a.m. We do HMB Live. We certainly appreciate it. If you got some value from the show today, I got one favor. Could you please share it and you know, tell your friends. Maybe they should be on as well. In the future, we'll try to give you a little bit more warning and maybe post the show a little bit ahead of time so you're ready to go, just so it doesn't just spring up on your news feed right at 11 a.m. like we did today. We'll try to be a little bit more organized on that, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Comment below if you need anything. And, you know, we're here. We're here. You got any closing remarks related to this topic?
My closing remark, I'm going to repeat what I said before, that I would love to see the before and after in terms of the numbers on how a deal played out. Anybody out there doing deals, if they happen to put them together before acquiring a property, all their projections based on cost and profit and everything and a bottom line, and then a second column on exactly how it played out and see what we can learn from the two. If anybody's doing that, I would love to see it. And I think I'm going to talk to Tony about maybe having one of our clients, and we'll walk through it with them, you know, at the time of acquisition and at the time of sale, their projections and their final numbers. Really want to see that. I think that would be super, super beneficial to people doing real estate deals. So,
yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, until next time, we will see you. Jason and Chris with HMB Live.